right. So I guess, Jesse, first question. No one comes to Saskatoon in January. Why did you decide, this is the time for you to hold a soccer clinic, coaching clinic here in Toontown?
I heard it's the beautiful time of year to come here in January. I guess this all kind of started when I took a trip to Edmonton to watch the PDP championships. And then when I was talking, I had a couple different meetings with the coaching groups that were there for the different youth clubs. And I kind of asked them, like, what kind of things do you need from a national team and a national team coach? And they said, a little bit of insight into the football that we want to play. Some went as far to say a style of play directive, and others just thought a little bit of sharing my experiences. So we then ran our first symposium in Montreal when we were there with the team, where we had an open session for an invite only open session, followed by one of these symposiums. And then we had the next day was a full open session at the stadium for all the fans. The players went out in the community on that trip as well. And so it sparked the idea to try to do this little march across the country. And then in the meantime, also it's a chance for me to get to know people, to meet more spheres of influence in the game, and to collect information on how I think we can help the game as a national team.
You've been doing a couple of these for a couple of weeks now, or I guess the last week, not a couple of weeks. But what is the biggest thing that you've heard from coaches across this country, and what have you been trying? What's the message you've been trying to send as well?
Well, I think I think it serves for two purposes. One is to share some ideas, right? And then there's been questions about okay, why do you do this, or how do you do this? From everything from the physical aspects of loading to the training methodologies to the leadership ideas. And, so we've put together a video that basically has put together some core principles of things that we believe in. And we've kind of said, look, these are important to us, but we think they're valuable in almost any style of football that you want to play. And a lot of it involves intensity and being more dynamic and being more aggressive in the game. And then the other part is, I think, to give people a touch point to me and to the national team in general, so that as 2026 rolls around, I've been calling this the people's team, and I want people to feel a real connection to what we're doing, to be proud of what we're doing. I know from being in the U.S. and having a lot of foreigners come into our country that it can be really polarizing, this position. And I want to convey to everyone that I'm here to help in every way to help build the best national team we possibly can, but also to really help encourage more positive developments in the sport. I hope that people take it that way.
How important is it to kind of have that unified message, to be like, what, I see you, I hear you. There's a lot of good soccer players that come here, and I want to kind of help take them to that next level.
Yeah, I think, look, there's a lot of times along the way, I've said, look, I'm not Canadian. I need to learn about this. I need to figure out how to represent this in the way that will reflect the communities that we have in this country. And one thing I can say is I felt a real sense of kindness and generosity and genuineness, along with a desire to work together, right? And I would say that last part specifically separates Canada from the U.S. In the U.S., there's a lot more polarization in the sport and a lot more protection of local ground. And I feel like here, people are excited about trying to learn and grow and work together and ultimately give our players and our young talent in the sport opportunity to achieve at high levels. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing you'd say, other provinces and I guess smaller communities, what can they do to start developing players like maybe the Alphonso Davies? I know some of it's luck, but you came up in U.S. soccer at the time after they hosted the '94 World Cup and kind of, progressed the MLS into what it is today. What's the biggest thing development-wise you see that kind of needs to happen, to get more players from the Saskatchewan, maybe the BCs, the Albertas, Manitoba?
Well, I've challenged everywhere to think less about completed passes and more about dynamic, aggressive play, right? I've talked a lot about counter pressing. I've talked a lot about pressing. I've talked a lot about vertical play. I've talked a lot about sprinting and physicality in the match. And look, let's be honest. Canada's not the most cultured football nation. That's not what we have. We do have multiculturalism here. And what I like is there are, Nico Sigur grew up in Burnaby and is a little Croatian player, Ismail Kone, it's like he's a French African type player, so they still hold on to these characteristics from their heritage, but they're also incredibly Canadian and very proud to be on the Canadian national team. And in there, I think it's really important that we understand that the game is so much more than connecting passes, and that the game is so much more than just what happens on the ball, that there can be a lot more accessing of the physicality and the speed and power in the match, which for me actually matches our player pool. Because I thought that about the first team, but what I've realized more and more is throughout the country, there's incredible athletes all over, right? And so even at the 17s level, we've recognized that, and we kind of helped Mike Vitullo figure out how to adapt a bit to what we're doing. And he went down there and he beat Costa Rica 3-0, and they beat Mexico there as well. And that was the first time that a youth boys team has won against Mexico in 12 years. So I think, the game is developing, and I think this style of football can help the game develop even further.
What are you discovering is your biggest challenges or obstacles with a national team as opposed to club?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because when I was first hired, then I kind of went from June 1st to December 1st. We had 14 matches, right? And so I was pretty active in that stretch. And then basically from December 1st now to June 1st, I have 2. So this is the worst time, hands down, because you're not with the team and you don't get to really work on the development of what you're creating with them as individuals and as the team is enough. But it's also given me opportunity to do more things to help fundraise, to help create more infrastructure in this Canadian Soccer Association, both for the first men's and women's team and also for the youth, because that's one of the big issues is we're suffering in the youth. We don't have enough touch points. We don't have enough teams. We don't have enough moments for our young, talented players to actually be part of the national team. And that's a big thing that we need to change. So raising funds would be very important for that. And then there's getting this out, the word about the technical aspect of what we think we try to achieve and what we think is important in the game, and see if we can encourage people to want to attach themselves to that. So, that work has still been important, I think, for where we are in the country.
What has been your most enjoyable favorite match moment you've coached for Canada so far?
I think Uruguay. And the reason was because we made 5 or 6 changes in the lineup in that match, right? And a bunch of guys got their first start with me as the coach. And I felt that performance was as good, if not better, than many of our others. And what it showed is, for me as a coach, that the development that we've had with not just the core 11, 12, 14 players has been good, but that the overall development of the group has been good. So that was a proud moment for me as a coach to see us perform so well in that moment.
Looking forward, 2026 is coming up quick. How confident do you feel? How excited are you that you guys are kind of in the sprint now to get to that point?
We have a good team. We know that. We have good players. We have guys with big experiences now playing at big clubs. There's real belief in the team and what we're doing, and they've had now a wealth of experiences. Winning CONCACAF and going to the last World Cup, and even though we lost 3 matches in the last World Cup, we played well in those moments. And though the players kind of carry all those experiences with them, and now with what I'm trying to do with them coming in, I think now it's the right mixture of chemistry where we have potential to really make history and do something special. So we know we have a good team. We're excited. We don't fear anyone. We think, we know that we can play with anybody, and we look forward to the next year and a half and the build up to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Nations League is right around the corner. What can we do to counter the over-the-top physical play Mexico implemented against us in the last friendly?
Well, I would guess they're going to bring that again, and we'll be. I was really happy with the players last game because it was one of those where the game started, and typically against Mexico there's a lot of technical play, and really early within a minute it was clear that they were going to try to make it a fist fight, and our guys knew it and they responded and they were up for it, and I thought that showed maturity. Look, we're going to have to, I think, develop a really clear plan of how we want to press them and make it difficult for them. And then with the ball, we're going to have to expect that if we find any space or start to put little combinations together and create advantages, that we can expect a lot of fouls. And if that's the case, then for sure on the day we'll need to also be very effective on set pieces. So I think we'll see another version of that because I think Mexico is pretty pleased with the overall performance, and I think that they'll be ready to do something similar.
Can you touch upon your search for Canadian talent around the globe? Are there any names that you can discuss that will perhaps play in the Nations League coming up or a upcoming Gold Cup?
Yeah, look, I've spoken with a lot of dual nationals, and I think we're really close to converting some of them to playing for us. We're not quite ready to announce that yet, just because we have to make sure that everything is cleared. But we're excited about the potential of the kinds of players that we're going to add to the group.
A player like Jonathan David, with the way he's scoring in France, if you could choose a league, or where do you think you would like to see Jonathan David go? Not team, but which league do you think would fit him good to prepare him for the World Cup?
Look, I think it was interesting too because he didn't play. He was suspended for yellows this weekend, and Lille lost their first league match in 4 months without him. Like this is what I tried when people have called me in Europe and are considering him for their. I've talked to a few English clubs about him. What I've said is you probably you underestimate how good he is because his real talent is his intelligence. He's not the fastest, biggest, strongest, but he's just so smart in the game, and he knows how to help his team, and he knows how to score goals, and he knows how to be at the right place at the right time. And so the only thing, I don't really care. I want him to be challenged, but I want him to play. And I've just tried to express to people that are considering him, take him. You won't be disappointed.
How often do you hear from European managers about these Canadian players that are all up and coming? Because they're very young, they're all very skilled, and I mean, it seems like this is the golden generation for this country.
No, I've had the combination of people calling me specifically about a player or another, and then others saying, "Look, who should we be thinking about? Who should be on our radar?" And so those kinds of conversations, I think, have been good. And I mean, even in the last summer when there were some transfers for our guys. I was having some of those discussions with different clubs. So, I'm always trying to help them, if things are going well or if they need a little support because things aren't going as well. Like, I think as a national team coach, it's just about making sure that they know that they're supported and that I believe in them, and I'm trying to provide as much as I can to help them continue to achieve.
The next biggest thing for you guys, I guess, you don't have to do World Cup qualifying because you're already in the tournament. Any announcements on friendlies that are coming up here in the next one?
No, not yet, but we have slated almost the entire year for what our opponents will be, and it'll be some really good opponents. So we're really excited. A lot of opponents sort of in the 10 to 30 range in the FIFA ranking.
Any idea where those games are going to be played?
I think the majority are in Canada, but we'll have one European stint.
Any chance Mosaic and Regina gets a game?
Look, part of this is when I was in Winnipeg, I saw that they have a beautiful stadium and big enough for a football pitch, but it's just turf, right? And so it's the same here a little bit in Regina. So we're always thinking about how to. Again, if we call it the people's team, we need to get the team out with the people, right? So we're always thinking about how to make this team a real strong representation of the entire country. So we'll see.
I'm going to go into a couple players here.
Okay.
When you watch Bayern Munich play Alphonso Davies in the left back, it's evident and impactful what he does for Bayern Munich, Canada's most talented player ever. Have you explored ideas for Davies to have more impact offensively for our team?
Well, I think, look, in the past, Alfonso needed to be a big part of the attacking part of the team because it wasn't as well complemented and there wasn't much as talent in the group. But I think now Alfonso knows that he doesn't feel like he has to do everything. I think he just needs to be the best version of himself because there's plenty of talent in the group now. And look, Bayern and I, we use them similarly. And we started this in the summer where we have him defend a lot at left back, where he can be a lockdown defender, and then he can start to move into the midfield and start to be more part of how we move around the attacking part of the pitch. And so I think when he gets that balance right, like how he does it at Bayern München, I think that it's been really effective for him to make an impact on both sides of the ball. And the fact that he hasn't scored or had a ton of assists yet I don't think has anything to do with our team. And I think our team has played well. And clearly the results have been good, and we're at our best FIFA ranking ever. So I think in general, the overall construct of the direction of the team has been good, and Fonzie's role in that, I would include.
Kyle Larin plays a lot of minutes. What's his role with your team and his impact with Team
You
Canada?
mean he plays a lot of minutes with us or with
Team Canada.
Mallorca? Yeah, no.
You've had him on the pitch a lot.
Yeah, because he's a very intelligent player and understands exactly what we want out of him. And, Kyle, I think the combination of his experience and then his size and athleticism and his intelligence up the pitch and his relationship with Jonathan, it functions so well for what we're trying to get out of the team. So he's incredibly important for me, incredibly important player for us. And he's becoming a really good leader as well.
The debate between Max and Dane has been ongoing. When do you feel a concrete number one needs to be solidified going into 2026, or do you continue to go with the hot hand?
Yeah, I think it's, is it the hot hand or is it the health? I think the healthy competition between them has actually made them both much better. And I've seen both of them mature, their level of concentration, their performances, their training concentration, their performances with their club. In all ways, I've seen both of them grow much since I've been a part of things. So I know it hasn't been easy for them, but I told them I'm committed to communicating very clearly with them where exactly things stand and how they need to keep improving and what things they've done well. And in the meantime, I've said that they really need to have a good relationship and support each other. And they've been frankly just amazing. So yeah, I don't know concretely what that answer is, but I certainly respect them both in a big way.
How big is it for you to have that luxury where you have two goaltenders that you could trust?
It's really important. They know that I trust them both. They know that it's not like one's not playing. They know that I see that they're both very good and both very important. And that part, I think, has still made them feel like they're important within the whole team.
Moisey Bombito, you brought him into the team right at the beginning. How impressed have you been with him, and how important is his role going forward?
Yeah, I was pretty sure by evaluating him before I took the job that we could turn him into a big player. And I think, he's exceeded expectations, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. He's an eager person. He's a great professional. He's an intelligent person. And then he's a gifted footballer. So, yeah, I think he's only going to get better.
In your wish list, what would you ask of the Canadian Soccer Association to help prepare for 2026?
Look, there's two aspects to this. There's what do we need to do to solidify the environment that we're creating with the first team? And we're not far off. Like, the players still exist in a very professional environment when they're with the first team, both the men's and the women's. So it's not like they're suffering massively, but obviously I would like us to be a little bit more supportive from a resource perspective, from a headcount perspective, and for the players to make a little bit more money for what they do, right? But at the same time, the main thing is about creating a more robust youth national team program in the CSA for both the boys and the girls. And so that's where a lot of the fundraising needs to be addressed. Yeah, but look, man, I'm enjoying. This has been great. Even if things aren't perfect, the work on the inside, the commitment from everybody, players, staff, administrators, extended administrators here in the country, like the support and the belief and the work together has been outstanding.
Is there any value to having some form of promotion relegation system implemented within the Canadian soccer pyramid?
I think that would have to be the goal, but we're really far from it. Right now we're just trying to help the CPL become more profitable and become more solidified, right? But look, 2020. You mentioned 1994. Like, what I've been talking, I described in 1994. I was a college soccer player, right? And because of 1994, MLS started. I was in the rookie class of MLS. I played 14 years. I was like the last man standing. Then I became a coach. That becoming a coach allowed me the opportunity to get my UEFA Pro license, to go coach in Europe, to coach in Champions League, coach in the Premier League. So we need to now provide, we need 2026 to be that for Canada, where we can provide young players the opportunity to dream and achieve big goals, young coaches to mature and grow and have a bigger impact on what's happening in the game. So this is a big opportunity for the country, obviously with the first team, but over for the sport overall.
Listening to your press conferences at Copa America, we could feel your passion. And I think you really attached yourself to the Canadian mentality and that Canadian fight that we have inside of us. Being Team Canada's head coach, how excited are you? Where do your feelings stand that you're going to coach a host World Cup team?
So I was on, what day is today? Sunday. On Friday morning, I woke up early because I had an early flight, right? And I made in my hotel room, I overlooked Lake Ontario, and I made a cup of coffee in my hotel room, those crappy little coffee makers. And I was drinking basically brown water, but I was looking out at the sunrise, right? And I was kind of I had a view where I was overlooking the city and then the lake, and then the sun was rising. And I was just sitting, I tell you, it was the first time that I really thought about what it's going to feel like in a year and a half in this city where we play our first match, and in the country, right? And I started getting chills a little bit, and started to think about, but in there, my focus is seeing the city I'm thinking, how do we light this country on fire, right? That's my goal. Of course, I'll be excited for the moment personally, but my entire mission is to make sure that in all ways we maximize the potential of what being a host nation needs to be, right? That the energy behind the team, the belief in the team, the belief around the team, the energy in the stadiums is so electric that we have the feeling that we're unbeatable, right? And then we can really live out some dreams, and then we can really make the country proud, and then we can really look at it and go, what an incredible run, right? And so one of the beauties of our setup is I think FIFA should have done a better job that if we get out of the group, we should have played at home either way. But the way it's set up right now is we have to win the group to play the next game at home, right? So, but think about it. Now the incentive inside the team going into the World Cup isn't just to win the last time it was talking about a first goal, a first win. Forget that, man. We need to win the group. We need to win the group so we can play 2 more matches at home and we can actually make a run in the tournament. I've talked a lot about the 2002 Korea team as the example of what this could be. And there's no reason with the talent we have, with the way that the team is performing, that we can't dream like that. So that is, as much as it's about how do I feel, it's the responsibility that I know I have and the desire and relentlessness to achieve that goal. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, you're
okay, guys.
the goose hitting. Yeah, 20 times.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
I called it.
You did?
Yeah, and I spoke to him and I asked him about it. It's interesting.